In this lesson, we'll add the grass, planting, and assets. Let's start with the grass. Grass models come from glow plants. I will create another layer for planting. We'll be using Chaos Scatter, as all of you got this plugin because it comes with Corona and Virii license. I will name it grass, so the scene is nice and clean. I just have to pick the surface here. And here, I have to add the models. Let's see how it looks on render. Not enough. We need to increase density. Let's open the Scattering and Surface Scattering tab. We have two options. We have to pay attention to max limit and count. If the count is larger than the max limit, we will end up with the number set in the max limit box. Otherwise, the count controls the number of objects. Let's increase this number. Looking good. The grass is too large though. Let's open the Transformations tab to edit the scale. Additionally, I will randomize the scale so the models vary. Let's try from 20 to 40%. 20 is too small. Let's do 30. Great. We have to increase density again. I will add a couple of 0 to the max limit in case it's too small. Awesome. Looking great. I really like these patches of old grass. Let me show you how to clean up the edges. Select the grass models and open the material editor. Right-click on Scene Material Rollout and check the Filter Selected Object option. This way, it will show only the materials of the selected models. Drag and drop the materials to the editor. Next, we have to add the Chaos Scatter Edge Trimming map. All we have to do is to plug into the opacity slot of each material. The second material has the opacity map slot used. I will show you what to do with this in a minute. Let's plug the map into other materials first. Let's go back to the second material. We simply have to plug the scatter map between the opacity texture and the material. And that's it. Nice and clean. Next, let's move to planting. I will put the grass on a layer and turn it off. Next, let's create another Chaos Scatter. First, let's add the plant models you want to include in the object rollout. All the models come from glow plants. Then just pick where you want to have your plants distributed. I will pick my ground. Of course, I don't want the whole lawn to be covered with planting. I will draw the splines in the places where I want my plants. I will make it larger than a lawn. If the lines overlap with the lawn, some spaces could be empty because the models don't fit. As a result, parts of the grass could be visible. Let's turn off the Start New Spline option. This way we will get just one object at the end. I will draw other splines. I made the recording faster. And that's it. We have to attach the first two splines we drew before the option Start New Spline was on. I will edit this spline a bit. That's fine for now. I will go back to the Scatter object and go to the Areas rollout. Here, let's pick our spline in the Include section. This way, plants will still be on the surface we've picked earlier, but also inside the spline. In the same way, you can exclude objects if needed. Again, not enough models. Let's increase the count. Awesome! Now all the models are in equal proportion. We can change that using the frequency value. The default is 1. If we lower it, there will be fewer instances of this model inside the scatter. Next, I will go to Transformations and Randomize Scale. Models are too big in my opinion, so I will make the scale lower than 100%. I will also randomize translation, so the planting seems more randomly distributed. So we lower the scale, the planting becomes less intense. Let's increase the count to fix this. Great! Now let's adjust the spline. We can go back to the spline anytime and change the scatter's area. I will adjust it to the camera view. It's worth spending more time on these small details. Think about objects that are ahead and behind the planting, what you want to show, and perhaps what can be a bit hidden, creating the layering effect. It all matters. These small adjustments change the composition and the way how the image is perceived. Looking good. Let's go back to the Scatter object. I will enable the camera clipping option. This way, the objects which are not visible in the camera won't be rendered. Then let's go back to the count and adjust the number of plantings again. I will make the plants slightly smaller. And finally, I will decrease the count slightly. Great! Scatter is done. Next, I will set up the plants in the foreground. In this case, when I do a small patch of plants in the foreground, I often do it manually to have more control. Let's start by converting the models to proxies to keep the scene nice and light. I will choose full mesh as I want to see the plants in the viewport to be able to quickly place them. I will start placing the plants. The main reason I place the plants here is to crop the image, which will help a lot with the composition of this shot. This technique helps to draw viewers' attention towards the center of the image. I want to have the plants slightly protruding at the front to give more context and the feeling that you are in the beautiful park. When you copy proxies, remember to use the instance option, so the objects are loaded once. It's also important to use the rotate and scale tools to avoid repetition when using the same model more than once. In nature, you cannot find two identical plants. The more variety of plants you will have, the more realistic effect you will get. I always try to spend a bit more time adjusting manually the foreground objects as they influence the composition significantly. And because they are very close to the camera, high-quality models are a must in this case. I will put the models in the correct layer to keep the file clean. Let's turn this layer on and create another scatter object for the planters. Let's pick the objects. Next, plants. I will use just these two plants for that. And here it is. I will turn off the first planting so we can see it better and the interactive render is faster. There are too many plants. Let's lower the count. Still too many. Awesome. I will just add some randomization to position and scale and we are done. Planting is done. Next, let's move forward to placing the assets. I will start by placing this bench from Evermotion. I will convert this model to proxy first. Let's create the layer for these objects. All we have to do is position the models now. A bit boring job, but has to be done. Awesome. Next, let's move to the playground. These models are not included in your files, but you have the source link where you can download them for free. We don't have to make proxies here, as we'll only use one model each. Here it sits nicely in 1/3 of the image. I have to lower this bench. Great, let's turn on the shrubs layer. It will be needed for placing people. I chose these two women from Humano 3D because I think they perfectly match my idea, which I explain in a minute. I positioned the people more or less in the intersections of the line of the rules of thirds. It will perfectly work with the composition rule. The woman standing will be more in the back, while the woman crouching will be more in the front. Going back to the idea of the image, I didn't want to create a typical story here. Children on the playground, families walking, and so on. I wanted to create something different. The goal here was to show that it is a closed state, where you don't have to care about anything as there are people responsible for taking care of the place for you. The residents just have to enjoy spending time there. With humans, we need to be careful as they grab lots of attention. This is why I rotated the crouching woman towards the center to make sure I leave the viewers focused there. Taking into consideration that we have morning lighting, I thought it would be a nice idea to add gardeners in the image that take care of the gardens before residents are there. Next, I will change the preview of the scatter planting so we can position the woman on the right more accurately. Go to Viewport Display and change it to Full Mesh. Then increase the max polygons and instances. I will actually change it to the point cloud so the file is lighter. I have to move her a bit. Let's see how it looks rendered. Looking good. Let's turn on the grass. Awesome. Assets are done. Let's check the render with the fog. I will move the sun up a bit, so we have more light in the foreground. Looks good, but the fog is too strong as a result. I will edit the material. Let's increase the distance. Before I check how it looks, I will add the Z-depth render element. Let's add the wire color pass as well. I will increase the max distance. As always, I will use my script for the wire color. Let's check the render. We have to increase the distance more. Awesome, we're ready to render. Let's set up the limit, add the denoising, and set the final resolution. Turn on the grass and render.